Click recording. All right. And we're live. Welcome to the first episode of The Joy of Freelancing. My name's Alan A.S. Katona, and this is Adon at Risk Media. Hello, welcome to the first episode. Welcome.
How are you doing, Alan? I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. I'm glad I'm here too. And we've got a bunch of questions. The show is about, if you didn't know what this is about, our first episode, we're live on Twitch, we're recording, we're going to be coming at your ears wherever you're listening and or watching. We've got some freelancing questions in the industry. I've got some for Adon. We'll be and we're going to hear his insights and his experiences, and I'm going to learn something. I'm definitely going to learn something today. And I hope you will too. And I hope this podcast will be helpful for anyone listening in the industry. And we'll start off with the first question, Adon. It's all about you. All these questions we're going to be hearing all about you, and I'll be giving my 2 cents, so to speak, back and forth. The first question? Please introduce yourself to all of us here in the internet, and share a brief overview of your background in the tech industry.
Hello, internet. So I'm Adon. I've been in the industry in different roles for decades now. So I'll start with 7 years old with the VIC-20. I'd get these compute magazines and type in the instructions and make a bunny run across the screen or whatnot. And it just got my heart. I just loved what I could do, and I wanted to learn. And from there, every day I was programming and learning, and I've got handfuls of medals from science fair, computer science category when I was like this kid. And so years of just love of technology, but also community and art. And I remember my first real connection was with BBSs. So you dial up with your modems and you kind of make that funny sound, and I connect to local computers and type to people. And it was just this kind of first connection to something out there. For me, I was kind of from a broken home, and I'd get on these, through this modem and just to open this whole world. So from there, I just, grew up. I went to school, but I didn't, when I went to school, I didn't really make good career choices, and I always fell back on technology. So the quick version of it is I'd gone through my first, it was an honors 4-year business degree, and I just didn't fit in. And all my electives, I'd take philosophy and social, theory and all this great stuff. And I graduated with nothing, like no career prospects. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go, I decided to go back to school. I did a master's in environmental studies, and I was really interested in the role of technology in our communities. And that was the time where I started an internet radio station. So I also had professional roles where I worked a lot in IT, but a lot of it comes back to this kind of enthusiast, this tinkerer, this person that just wanted to build stuff. And we had this internet radio station where we had local shows. We had like a pink rock, like these girls from high school would come out and do like this youth, local talent, music from bands in the area. And it's just incredible to see how technology brings people together, and that I could use coding to make the infrastructure for this kind of stuff to happen. And that was always really, what's driven me through all of my, how I approach technology, how I approach, why I do freelancing, what I get out of freelancing. It's really been a driving factor for me.
Wow. Well, what a start. This hits home for me because I love this part of the story, because your internet radio station, starting at an internet radio station as a tinkerer. I'm actually in a similar boat as you, actually, because in my teenage years with exploring the internet in the early 2000s, I was on an internet forum, and they had an internet radio station, and I had a show for a while on an internet radio station when I was like a teenager. Like, and that was like my tinkering phase too. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, good. And all possible with open source. Like I was using Linux and Icecast server and all this kind of technology that was just available. And
Yeah.
go on. Hey, I'm jumping your question, so I'll hold
No,
back my statement.
that's fine. That's fine. All right. Well, this next question is actually tied into the first question, which is how you sort of explained it, but you can go into more detail. Is how did you how did you get started in freelancing? Like, and what motivated you to choose this path?
It's a good question. A lot of what I was doing was sort of how I describe using technology, but I would spend a lot of time and I'd put tons of effort into things. And then building communities is the toughest thing you could ever do. And I'd be putting all this effort or I'd be finding ways to give because I wanted to learn or I just wanted to kind of use these skills. But I was also really draining myself. And then I was also spending money on servers and all this kind of stuff where I thought, like, I'm doing all this work for organizations and groups and things like this, and they don't really appreciate what I'm doing for them. And then I'm actually self-funding it in order for me to do it for them. And I just kind of felt this is kind of a funny thing. So I went through a long phase with that where I needed to increase my skills, and there's a whole kind of timing where that worked for me. And I had some small projects, not really a lot of, but I made $750 once for one project and little things like that. Once I made like $4,000 or something like that. And
Wow.
it blew my mind. Like that was that would still be a big number for me.
Yeah.
Doing these projects, it was what I got to a point where I thought I've done enough of that. And I also work a 9 to 5. There's a lot of things I do, but I was thinking I need to really build a foundation. I need to be smart. And I wanted to use the tax structures that were available to me and also own assets. I want to invest in my company. So I made that transition a bit of a knowledge gathering kind of effort, but I set myself up as I'm still sole proprietor, so I'm not incorporated, but I got sort of all the business records set up. I figured out how to do my taxes. And then now I invest, I buy equipment for my company. I've got great video gear and things like this. So at this one point, and this was quite a while ago now, but I really made that decision that I'm ready to go beyond just the tinkering and the, just having the fun with it. Whether it was for paid projects or not even under those contexts, but to be a bit more serious about it and really, put a value on my time and approach it that way as a business.
Yeah. I want to throw in a quick, another little question here in the middle. You mentioned, you, have a 9 to 5. You have a full-time job, but you are freelancing your own business, your solo business on the side. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've always worked.
Yeah.
20 plus more now. But I've also always put time into different projects. So now by setting up this agency, I've got a handful of clients. The way I kind of look at it is I make enough revenue to cover all of my expenses, which means I'm kind of paying. I bought a server, a really powerful server to do some data science work. So I'm really able to invest in the equipment.
Yeah.
And I kind of just break even, but I'm putting a bunch of time in, but that is its own reward in a sense. So it's always been this kind of, I put a lot of hours in, but it's the way I'm doing it. So, for others that might be too much. For me, it's just been that's kind of the right amount. And I'm hyperactive. My brain's kind of always on. So I like to channel that into things that I find productive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to say the SH word. I know it's a bit taboo. on the internet these days because of all the gurus out there. I don't know if you know which word I'm about to say. It's actually sounds like because you're working full time and you've got your bills covered, and you're the business is it's going to be your business. Freelancing is your side hustle.
Yeah.
Your side hustle. Which is what a lot of people out there actually are doing with their freelancing, like yourself. Not everyone is a full-time freelancer. It's a lot of times people are doing little bits and pieces, or their hobby turns into a monetary business on the side. Well, I don't know if that was how things were with you at the beginning, but it sounds like this we're just clarify. I'm trying to just clarify going forward. Like establishing from the start what in a way, not in a bad way, like what type of freelancer you sort of are, which is it's like it sounds like a side hustle, like you said, sole proprietor, affording your own equipment, affording everything, paying everything, doing everything yourself with clients, this and that, but also working a job, like having another career in a way, like another. Is it in the same? Is it in the same industry? Can I ask? Is it in the same industry?
Yes and no. It's technology, but I'm in higher education,
right?
So I oversee digital learning, educational technology, pedagogy support, how technology is used in universities to support the teaching and research mission of the university is kind of the broad mandate that I have.
Yep. Gotcha. All right, let's move on to
one.
Yeah, go on.
Say one thing though, Al. I think there's a lot of people when they're starting out that it can be a side hustle, and also, and I see this in you too, where there's different tranches. It's like you can create different revenue streams, and sometimes some of them serve you really well, but maybe don't generate the revenue, or other ones they'll be something you return to years later, where you can kind of pull back on those strengths and activate some kind of offer in a space that really can generate value at that time. So this notion of having, I get the asterisks on side hustle where, sort of problematized, but I think it's also an accurate way to think about how a lot of people are approaching this lifestyle, and where sometimes you do need to have multiple revenue sources that you develop to really figure out how could it be a full-time, replace a 9-to-5. So it's its own focus, and I think that's a big challenge.
Yeah. Okay, with your freelancing, what are what would you say your key skills are, and the technologies you specialize in?
Relationship management, above anything else, I would say. Communication, understanding client requirements before their requirements. So really understanding the client and being able to pull requirements out of them. I've done that badly so many times in the past to learn what doesn't work. Like, I've had so many bad examples, put so much effort into a project that I ultimately could never deliver because they just stopped returning my calls and didn't pay me. So many things there. So in terms of the big skills, the communication's a big piece. And then another, I would say before I get to the technology, it's the problem solving, and better than that's even is the problem identification.
Yeah.
Really being able to hone in on what does the client need to see here. And there's a lot of nuance there, and there's a lot of opportunity to see a quick path that meets their needs. And it's important that I think this is where you can get into pricing and different ways where I know in the past where I would have thought about, I wasn't always thoughtful on maybe because I didn't have the knowledge, but really what's the best solution for this client or this project, I just kind of lead on, well, I'm good with this, or it's like I'll give them what I know, and it's not always that right fit. And that's something over the years I've really, because now I've amassed a good range of skills, I'm able to take a step back before even addressing the technology to get to the heart of what's needed, and also to be thinking in terms of, again, back to this relationship piece of what's needed now versus, what seeds can I plant for an ongoing relationship. So a lot of the stuff I specialize in, I think, is at the human level. And I think that's critical. And those are skills that I think they're hard to teach. You can gain them and develop them in time, but a lot of it comes from your heart. And I think some people, that's just not the orientation they're going to put to things. But if it is the orientation, then you're just going to figure it out. And it's kind of a wonderful thing. I think I really love the relationships I gained through business. But in terms of technologies, I was new to React 3 or however many years ago. I used to always do, really, PHP was kind of my thing. I did a ton of Linux, but I never really figured out a way to monetize that. I build my own web servers and do all this kind of stuff. I sell professional managed hosting services. So there's some service fees that I could charge there, but I can't really monetize that stuff. But that's a big strength of mine. Things like load balancing and understanding how to distribute web infrastructure across. I've got clients that are global, and just understanding what decisions to make, what technologies to use. What can I do with DNS? What can I do with servers, and all that kind of stuff's a big strength area for me. And in terms of web programming, I'll just sum it up. I started with I started with HTML. I've got websites I built. The whole radio station I built was PHP and just Java, no JavaScript, just plain CSS, and was whatever I could build.
Yeah.
Flash at the time.
Yeah. Remember Flash?
What I moved to though, what I moved to though, before going to React, was Drupal, and that was a passion area for me. I love Drupal.
That's a name you don't hear very often, but it was around 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It was a big one, but
well, it's still, I think they're still very successful. I mean, NASA's built on Drupal. There's tons of sites. I'm building we didn't talk about it, maybe talk about it another time, but I'm building some software which is decoupled from Drupal. So I love Drupal, and I built, I kind of went through, and maybe this will foreshadow a future question, but I went through that transition where I would buy ThemeForest themes and then customize them. And, I got to a point where I could just build my own theme in Drupal and create modules and just do everything and get 100% Google Page Insight scores, which I wouldn't get if I bought a module template and kind of customized it. So I really went through that transition of not being able to just kind of write from scratch to being able to understand every aspect, or multiple aspects of the kind of tool chain. So I've built those skills over years and years and years. And really, where I started was, where everyone starts, is some corner, and just kind of built from there.
Right. Okay. What has been your most interesting or challenging project so far, and what did you learn from it? If there's been any, there has to be something.
Oh, well, there's many.
There was many. Which one's the best one? The most interesting or the most challenging?
Well, the radio station was certainly one, but I had another one that was a failed project, which when I was I'll try to tell it as a short story, but when I was in high school or public school, I don't know, I think in high school, there was a community police officer that he'd be he was the resource officer to the high school. And I guess he was using some of these interactive softwares. I forget the names of them at the time. But he found out that I was good with computers. So I kind of got invited to work with him on stuff. And then I met him again years later, and he's like, I had $1 million idea. So this kind of dates me. It's a big idea. It was $1 million idea back then. And he had just come from this chief of police conference, and he had all this insight and was saying, what we need is a geo data-based, the Citizen 911, where we could have community safety information, because the police office, police station was releasing it. This is before Twitter or all this kind of stuff. So they were putting out these, in this area, there's been break-ins or whatever the public safety information would be. And he has this idea, we should build this. And subsequently people did build it. There were some really big companies that came out of this, but I took this project on and I got quite a ways with it. I remember I even presented at a chief of police conference, which was terrifying for me because I wasn't the most, I figured they'd look sideways at me. But it was the coolest thing. And it was too big of a thing. And it never ended up kind of getting the traction and getting it to a minimal viable product that we could have taken it, or even having the insight of how to navigate and kind of stick handle a project like that. Right. It was, it's kind of how I just kind of go all in and then maybe realize, okay, that didn't work, and then learn from it, which was, kind of where the interesting projects really kind of memorability of them kind of resonates.
Right. Okay. Wow. The conference would have been interesting. Okay. I'm like ticking off my questions so I don't get confused here. Okay. We're making good time. We're nearly a third of the way through. We're doing all right. We're doing all right.
Listener count?
Yeah, we're doing. We've got some active. We've got some an audience. We've got an audience. I wouldn't say it's not a large audience, but it's an audience.
Appreciate each and every one of them,
and we appreciate all the views and listens that come our way. I hope this is helping you. And if you know what, we'll say this now in the middle of in the third, with about third way through the show. We've got another nearly about 10 questions to go. We've done about nearly 5 now, and if you want to ask Adon anything, or ask me anything, ask both of us anything, you can throw it in the chat and we'll squeeze it in somewhere. We get a break somewhere in the show. We can just say, hey, so and so has a question, and we'll try and answer it for you. My next question is, Adon, how I don't even know how I do this, but how do you stay up to date with all the latest trends and advancements in today's fast-moving technology world?
You've got to pick a lane. I think that's a big starting point, and really be okay with that. There's a lot of things that I find interesting, but then I don't spend 10 hours watching YouTube videos on, where certain things I just voracious with it, but it's within certain categories that I've really selected. And I've got a big vision around what I need on skill development. So having that sense of who you are, where you're going, and what are the kind of stepping stones that you need, that's important. But for those that are starting out, don't have that, then this advice I'm giving, is what's working for me might not actually be good advice, because I think early on I was all over the map, and I really, that was something where I developed a sense of sort of seeking out something special, like a discernment, where I could kind of look at 100 things and then see that one special. It's like in the moment, I don't know if anyone that's seen the Tetris movie, the guys, like there's like that early scene where his eyes get set on this new game, and it's just, he's like fixed on it. And it's like that kind of sentiment of, the discernment of, I can look at 100 things, but certain things really capture me. And I follow that. I really try to develop that.
Yeah.
But in terms of staying current, I also would say it's important to put the time in. So I'll give you an example. And this blends sort of the freelancing with my professional 9 to 5 work, but I wanted to increase my skills in data science, machine learning, ML ops, DevOps, this kind of stuff. And I did a postgraduate series of courses on data science. It took me quite a while. But out of that, I gained these incredible Python skills, which then in my professional setting, they became the tools that I used to create solutions to major problems that I was able to reduce. Things that would have taken 1,000 hours, I was able to reduce down into processes now that run in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, to different processes. So I've really been looking at it in a tactical way of what are the skills that I need for my next 3 to 5 years. And I constantly allocate time, dedicate time, focus, buy books. I kind of put resources towards that professional self-development, and then also just working with projects. A lot of times is with client projects that I've got. I still have a few unpaid, not unpaid, but I've got like this one church ministry group that I just love them and want to support them. So I manage their whole web infrastructure, and I built this whole kind of thing. Stay out of the religion and politics, but I built this whole kind of web system that integrates with YouTube, and it's just something I'm giving to them. But I was able to do it in a way that through that, I mean, the first build did not follow best practices, but then I kind of learned through that in a way that I couldn't really learn out with a paid client, and you shouldn't learn with a paid client.
Right.
Able to kind of take these real life use cases with a real life, client, with opinions, and, will tell me if he doesn't like something and go, or if the whole organization through him doesn't like something, but to really understand that I'm something that kind of gets better with time and with effort. And it's like a muscle you got to build up. So I love just kind of putting the time in, but doing it in a focused way.
That sounds like this would be a pro bono in the the legal industry would call it a pro bono case, and you're saying like you've learnt and you've adapted some skills and technologies that you wouldn't maybe not usually have done with a paid client that you were able to with this pro bono case, and you've done that because you've donated your skills and you've donated your time to this church, and it's helped you grow. It's helped you grow. Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
Great. Here we go. This is right in the middle of the. Oh, we're nearly in the middle of the show. This is a big question. Here we go. Everyone's gonna love this one. Adon, can you share? Like, can you share some tips and resources for finding and securing a freelance projects in the tech industry? What would you say to people? What's the Adon?
That's a tough one.
It is a big one. It's different for everyone. It can be different for everyone. It can be the same for everyone. But like, let's say off the top of your head, what could be a tip or a resource to find freelance projects out there for you? What would it be?
Well, I know what's worked for me and what's not worked for me. And the thing that hasn't worked for me is this idea of just magically something will just show up. Like, you got to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say almost without exception, I'd really have to think if there are exceptions, but generally speaking, all of my business has come through referrals or repeat business. And to me, that's a thing where, I'd pause there and really kind of ask the person asking the question, really kind of get a sense of where they're at. But I would say, if I wanted to give some general advice, I would say authenticity and for you to be able to be present, and whether that means having, a Twitter profile, whether it means having a website portfolio, whether it means having case studies or a capability deck, really polished funnel, I think number one is you really need to be able to kind of be present and be clear about the services that you're offering. And I would also say to be celebrating the wins that you do have, even if they're pro bono or other kind of project, but to kind of be out there and bringing people's attention to the good work that you're doing. And I think I feel that's kind of a thing that always works. There's a lot of other strategies that are maybe more specialized, but I don't know, hopefully that's not just cliche random garbage.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good because it's probably the main question I'm going to be asking everyone on this show. Like, it's the one main question that it is probably a lot of why people will be tuning into this show is to be hearing things like this. Like, that would be like the cream of the crop right there. And your answer is it's going to be similar to people because most of it's similar, all the general advice for getting jobs and getting tips in securing projects. Like you said, Twitter, funnel, getting a portfolio, getting like you said, like for you, what works for you is like you getting referrals and getting clients telling other clients and telling other clients, and word of mouth for you, and like word spreading for you, which is that would be another big one. Is like it all starts with that first client and that testimonial and that social proof that you can do the job, and that spreads. Like it's cliche, or it's like people think it's a fantasy, but it's actually real. That like it does spread from people to people and from client to client. No, so what I'm saying is it's not cliche what you said. It's actually really good hearing from your specifically your perspective and your experience, and hearing how you would put it to the listeners out there, or someone starting new, or even experienced people like looking for new clients as well. It's good to hear everyone's from different point of views. Your the best way, your take. I want to hear your take, and we got it. And it was great. Here's one. What are your main challenges that you face as a freelancer in the tech industry, and how do you overcome them? What do you like? What's a challenge, or a couple of challenges that you face regularly? And how do you get over it?
Getting clients.
Yep.
That's probably the biggest one.
Yep. That's everyone. Yeah, that's everyone's challenge, isn't it? Like it's number one, getting more clients.
For me, and I think it might apply more broadly too, but a lot of it comes down to attention and focus.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we kind of pinned the SH word and sort of kind of left it over there, but even for those who are trying to do this kind of work full time, it would be wise to have other additional offers and additional services that are bringing in revenue, because you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. So I think it's important to be, it's this kind of, for me, this idea of how much attention am I going to put into going after new clients, really try to build this business, and that there's a calculus there. And where I more recently kind of shifted, in the past, I really put a lot of energy into this challenge, and in some extent it was successful. I gained more clients and had more projects, but more so recently I've been really evaluating what I want and where I'm going, and I've been putting so much effort now into some software development. So I'm kind of building something that would make me more of a SaaS company. So I'm kind of in this transition where the freelancing, I'm not cutting off ties with clients. I'm not I'm not actively seeking new clients, and I'm cutting this kind of transition point where I've got multiple demands for my time, and I've kind of allowed the freelancing side of my business to wane a bit.
Okay.
And I think that, I know the focus here is the joy of freelancing, but to me, there's a joy in that because I've been able to use it for what I needed when I needed it. I kind of wielded this as a way to grow and, in all the ways I've described. And it's a lovely thing. I've really grown from being a freelancer.
It's actually makes a lot of sense because in my opinion, SaaS service as a software as a service actually starts off as a freelancing side hustle or a freelancing business, and then you're a one-man show, like, say yourself, and like you just said, you're transitioning into a SaaS infrastructure where that's where most of the time when you scale a freelancing business, you either go into an agency with multiple employees, or you go into a software as a service, which can have employees as well, or you can stay by yourself. And that's just why I wanted to bring that up just briefly. That that's interesting. You said that you're transitioning, and that's actually what can happen. So what people can hear out there, that's actually what. If you want to think like where does my freelancing future, where can my freelancing future take me? You can stay as a freelancer forever, or you can, like I said, you can go to an agency or a SaaS. And sounds like, Adon, this sounds like what you're saying about this SaaS. So you were talking about this to me. You were actually showing me and talking to me last time we spoke privately about your new SaaS, and that's what it's interesting you're bringing it up now. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Okay, here's a nice one. This can help a lot of people actually. I want to learn. I want to hear this from you. How do you manage your work-life balance, and what strategies do you use to stay productive and avoid burnout? There, the big B word, burnout.
Well, it's a real thing. It's a horrendous thing.
That's right.
And it's something I have dealt with quite intimately over the last several years. I mean, it's something I've had throughout my entire life, where I would say maybe there's two comments I make. And the first one is just this kind of general thing where I think there's a difference between burnout and just being depressed or not feeling like you found your place. And I think a lot of people, especially those that might be experimenting with freelancing, are still finding themselves. Maybe I'm in my 40s now. Like when I was in my 20s, I had no clue. Maybe still, I know I'm doing better now. But this is a general kind of comment, just that that how to avoid burnout gets really complicated if you're not on solid ground. And that's where, if you're still kind of trying to figure out where you're going in life, then I'd have a different answer. I'm happy to reach out. Anyone that wants to chat, reach out to me. Like there's one thing I'd say, move on to the second part. When I was younger, I didn't have good guidance. Like I didn't have good figures in my life to even help me understand what my choices were of where I could go, what kind of career choices I could make, and or if I wanted to be entrepreneurial, how to go do that. So there's a lot there where I didn't have that. So I just, for others that are seeking it, I now, if as an adult and professional, all this kind of stuff, I'm always happy to, for anyone seeking that out, I like to provide support, insight, reach out anytime. But the other big thing I'd say is around avoiding burnout, in the sense of where you're in your kind of setting, where you're in your capacity. Life still is going to happen. You're going to have off days. But what I found is where my focus is aligned with where I feel I have purpose. And for me, faith is a big driver. We get into that specific language, but for me, where I do feel I have purpose, every day I wake up with fresh strength. Like I've been working on this software that I've been developing now for a year and a half. My job is very, very intense. For the first 2 years of the pandemic, I was working 12, 16-hour days.
Wow.
Like it's insane. It's a whole other story. So I've been, pushed beyond, like I lost 50 pounds through the pandemic. Like I kept going, but my body, really, there was a toll that I experienced. And for me, because I have such strong faith, my mind is strong through this.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had points where there's been some toxic work situations that have just been really difficult. But that kind of stuff that stuff sort of can stick to me. And it's like on that night, I might suffer with insomnia, or the next day, maybe if I took a day off to get a break from work and I wanted to do my bootstrapping, my SaaS stuff, or if I, took a Saturday where I just wanted to kind of work on projects that I cared about, maybe the thoughts in my head are about the work situation. Then it's like, I can't focus and I lose that. So this challenge of keeping your focus, keeping your purpose, and also protecting yourselves and being able to say no and setting boundaries and all this kind of stuff, so complex. But I find I have developed a set of principles, kind of protocols around how I really insulate myself, protect myself from the expectations of others, and really create space in my hectic life to do the things that I care about. I've got a very supportive wife, there are a lot of things that make it easier for me to do that, but it's an active effort to kind of carve that out. And I find if I'm doing that, and if I'm in my purpose, which again, that's a whole other conversation, but then my strengths are kind of renewed daily, and then the problems that come up are manageable if they're the bite size that I can kind of face in a day. But I've gone through years where I've struggled with depression. Like I've been clinically diagnosed in the past with ADHD, general anxiety disorder. Like I've taken medication in the past for it. I've really kind of had that experience too. But when I found back in those times where I really hadn't found my footing, because I was kind of lost, it's like it was the same day. It's like the day never ended. I just didn't see any way out of it. Whereas now, because I've kind of overcome a lot of these things, it was just this open horizon, and life's this kind of wonderful thing where I can make something of it. Where in the past, I always felt life was happening to me and I just couldn't. Whereas now it's kind of on my own terms, not fully, but
yeah,
that makes all the difference for my life balance. I don't know if it replicates for others, but that's my answer.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that makes sense. It, like you said, everyone's different, everyone's situation's different, everyone's life and work is different. So life-work balance is not the same for everyone. But hearing your side, your version, how it affects you and how you manage and how you have support and everything and all that, it makes sense. And I'm sure the listeners will make sense of that. Not like you said, it's not maybe the way you deal with obviously the way you deal with your life won't be the same as someone else's life, but someone can take what you experience and feel from that. That's how I can see from that. But yeah, you know what? Let's change the tone a little bit. Let's go back to advice. What piece of advice do you have for someone looking to transition from, say, a traditional job to the freelancing tech industry? What would you say to someone trying to do this? Well, what's your best piece of advice?
There's a lot of stages. So I would say, be patient with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but talk to others, get a sense of what's actually involved. So it's not just the programming, it's not just the mock-ups or the design.
The design, yeah.
When you add an actual real life human, especially one who's paying money, things get different. And there's a lot of additional skills there in terms of managing that human all the way through the life cycle of the project, from finding them, and carrying a conversation with them sufficiently well enough that they come back to hear your offer. But on the other side of it too, even things like getting paid, like that's something I struggled with. Still clients that I just don't understand. They don't pay. It takes a lot of effort to get them to pay, and I'm charging them very small amounts. Like it's just, I don't want to do it. And so that's another complaint. So when you're starting out, I think there's a ton of stuff that you wouldn't know, and you've got to start somewhere. So one of the things I like to think is you can do it badly, or you can do it your own way enough times that you'll get feedback through those processes, and allow yourself that room to grow, and you get better at it. And I think especially through, be reflective over, I still have conversations in my head from like 30 years, well, not 30, but no, at least 20 years ago where, I did a pitch badly, and I could have done it. I could have got that client, or I could have got that project. And I didn't show up, I didn't prepare, whatever it is. And I did get it. And it's really important to kind of reflect on that kind of stuff of where things went wrong.
Yeah.
But I would say by speaking with people like Alan and, other freelancers, and just getting a sense of what that it's like, and being in community where, maybe you get a weird email from a client and you're kind of not sure how to respond, you want to be able to get on someone's Discord and just chat with another friend that's doing that kind of work, and, have a buddy to get through it together.
Yeah, that's some really good points you've raised. That's some really good points. I hope that that can help everyone. I'm definitely making mental notes. How do you build and maintain relationships with your clients to ensure ongoing work? You mentioned this already. You said you keep contact with your clients. You don't cut them off. So we're gonna dive into this question. Like how do you build that relationship, and how do you maintain it to keep the work coming?
A lot of it comes to meeting the people. I've got like one client that he knows how to reach me, and my phone could ring at any point, and you sort of half expect that I'll answer, but if I don't, he's good about it. He'll leave a message. But then I might not hear from him for 6 months, and that's just fine. But with him, I've got a set of services. Like I host his website. I built the site. There's some other smaller services that are kind of attached to that. And I invoice him, I think, semi-annually. So anytime he needs anything, he reaches out, and he's sort of been trained that works, that I'll always be available. And I've done that just through my own characteristics, but he's commented multiple times that I'm very easily available. I don't keep him waiting. Quick, fair with
Open communication.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. So with him, I kind of feel it's just at a healthy kind of level, and it's sustained. It doesn't really need a lot of watering. I've got another client that I've had so many, like, she must have like 7 different businesses, and there's so many projects that I built for her over the years that just are now defunct. And then I'm always chasing after her of like, it's just, I didn't set clear pricing and kind of service terms with her initially, because everything was always kind of this urgent, but then dropped after 3 months. So, through her, I really learned that, okay, I'm going to charge her 100% up front and all these kind of things. So to me, it's a really unique, I need to read the clients and get a sense of what they need from me. And then I'll do other things the odd time, reach out just to kind of check in. But I'm also mindful that I do have limited time, and I'm always so grateful that without me putting a lot of additional effort, every year for the past, 5-7 business years, I've always kind of maintained that balance where I'm bringing in enough revenue to cover my expenses. And to me, I just don't want to get audited. Like I'm reporting everything. I'm doing it all legitimate. All of the business expenses I've made are related to the work I'm doing. Like, it's all valid.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work to do the business tax records, all this kind of stuff. But it's been this kind of it's worked for me. So for the level of business growth and expansion that I'm looking for, I haven't really had to lean in on things. But there's also been years where I'm looking at, it's like September, and I'm looking at my annual billing, and it's like at 40% of what I thought it should be. That's where I'll get a little creative. And the one example is, I had built multiple, like, the one client, I've had him since I launched, like, 10 years now. And initially I built him this really basic site, and then I talked him into a Drupal 7 site. And then, of course, Drupal 7 went away, and the site I had built him was on a template, because at the time, that's how I did sites. So I couldn't upgrade it to Drupal 8, but I had the skill set by that time that I could build a custom Drupal 8 site, or at least I believed I could, because I had gotten enough to a level of confidence that I was ready, that I wasn't swindling him, like I was a legitimate offer. But that's an example where it's like the Drupal 7 end date was coming. I didn't want to go to him and say, oh, the website I built you, by the way, I didn't tell you I built it on software that's going to die in 3 years, because I just, again, I'd had thought of that. It's going to be pissed off at me, and then I'm going to have to do it real cheap. But they were also going through a growth time. They had some new products coming out. They wanted to use their website differently to promote multiple different product lines. So I was aware of this, and I used that information to kind of talk him into sort of pitched him on a Drupal 8, which is now Drupal 9, which is now Drupal 10 website that I built from scratch to sidestep this kind of ending life on the Drupal software. So, when I need to, I'll really kind of flex and hope for the best, but it's takes a lot of effort. Takes a ton of effort.
Would you? Okay, I think let's try. I want to summarize that. I want to say, from everything I took from that was, Matt, this is the big one. This can apply everywhere. This is I'm going to be repeating this a lot on this show. It's called managing your clients' expectations. Managing expectations, whether that can be clients, that could be friends, that could be family members. That's a good thing to have in life, right? You manage people's expectations, especially with clients, right? And with what you were saying, I'm taking from what you're saying is very, very open and very good communication. When a client messages you, you message them back as soon as you can. Don't let it sit. If the client emails you, don't say, I'll reply to him tomorrow. Like, you try and get back to him if he's got a question, if he wants something, or even if he can't do it, like, just, communicate properly. Keep keep that good communication. And it sounds like you've had, and you still do have, great communication with your clients. And that is one of the key factors, I think, would be in, maintaining that relationship and keeping the work coming. If you've got good communication, they're gonna ask you for more work. It's that simple. It's that simple.
And that's just the packaging of services.
Yeah.
So this is something in the past where I just do a website build, and then I wouldn't really think about this monthly cost, like a hosting fee, because it was on shared hosting, it was so cheap anyhow. And that was something where I really had to think about how to approach clients from the start differently. And it got to where if I'm giving them a proposal for a website build, it's got a line item in there for that first year of hosting, and it's clear that, there's a managed hosting fee, and that also then maintains that ongoing relationship where maybe there isn't a new project, but for that infrastructure, for the DNS records, do you have a strategy in place to maintain their records? Because if they're not maintaining them and then they expire, they're going to look at you and, kind of be pissy. So there's a lot of the communication and managing expectations, but also understanding what the related needs that they would have, and monetize that, just be upfront about what you can do, where the value that you produce is, and monetize it.
Yeah. Okay, we're good for time. We're a little bit running late for time. How are you going on your time end, Adon? Can we go a little bit further? I've got a couple more. I got one, two, three, four, five more questions, but we're coming up to an hour. I just want to double check with you that you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's still Tuesday for me, so if Wednesday is on the other end of this.
Oh, Wednesday's looking beautiful. You're gonna love Wednesday. Today is looking beautiful. Look, the sun's shining. Like, it's beautiful. Yeah. Even though we're on the other side of the world, it's gonna be a good day for you tomorrow. All right. We'll keep going then. It's a couple more good ones, and then we'll wrap this up, and then we'll say our thank yous and goodbyes. Can you share a moment in your freelance history, a moment or experience where you felt like particularly proud or fulfilled as a freelancer? What was like a defining moment? Can you, off the top of your head?
Think about, I know there's been many, but because I've been at it for so long, a lot of these memories now would have been faded. I mean, one thing that I really love is the relationships that I've made, and how the skills that I have, I've been able to kind of bring to, to add to something someone else has. So one example, I've got tattoos that you can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Take my word for it. And the artist that did all this artwork, most of my tattoos, I built him a website in like 2006 or something like that.
Right.
And it's still running. I mean, it's not responsive, and we just kept it up because it's his artwork, and he loves it. But for him at that time, he was this amazing tattoo artist, but he would travel the world. He'd do guest spots in different places. But him having this website that was pretty creative at the time, just visually so, like it was just, he was an artist, so I took his art and we kind of made this unique interface with it. And it's meant so much to him. And he would say how, just having that portfolio site set him apart at that time.
Right.
And it really made it easier for him to book these guest spots at, with artists that he really held in high esteem. And so it's really cool how it's, it's not about me, it's not about my skills so much, but it's how I'm able to kind of just through that relationship, through that, happenstance of coming together to kind of meet this guy who's now a good friend, but at the time I didn't I knew of him, but I didn't know him. But then we kind of come together and collaborate on this project. And, it's been 18 years, 17 years or something like that. And like, the site's still running. He's still got art on it. And I just, I like that kind of stuff where it's the stories behind, there's not so much the project. I get these moments every time, anytime something compiles or I write some code where, even just building that custom Drupal theme where I didn't purchase a template. I designed the whole thing and wrote a, custom code. See that project through to completion. Like there's so many projects where it's just to see that I did that with my own hands is just a incredible kind of feeling and reward. But I don't know. It's important not to get used to those kind of moments because we can kind of get spoiled a bit.
Yeah.
But for me, it's this kind of, I just approach life with this kind of level of wonder. And to me, like the way that I can make systems talk, there's just a wonder to that. And so it just brings out this kind of childlike excitement in me. So everything's sort of memorable, and so it's kind of fun, I guess.
That's great. Oh, here's a good one. In your opinion, how do you see the future of freelancing in the tech industry, and what opportunities or challenges do you anticipate? What do you see in the future, and what do you think
I do wonder if there's like even a further democratization where I look at ghostwriters, I look at people using Twitter to sell services, and I think about freelancers. I do think the market's a bit saturated. It's super oversaturated, and the ways that someone can build a website are pretty varied. There's a lot of no code. There's a lot of different stuff out there. So it's a very noisy market. But for anyone that, again, we just said freelancing, not web design specifically. And so this idea of creators doing creative work and using these social network tools to connect with audiences, I think that's just going to continue to explode. And I'm very curious about Web3 and where some of that kind of stuff comes in. Like I'm excited about it. Like there's stuff things like token gating where you can have go to a website, but you get a different experience if in your wallet you own a particular NFT, for instance. And the software that I'm building, that's this kind of dynamic, kind of choose your own adventure kind of thing. I see this whole NFT kind of layer on it where, I'm still visioning over what I would do with that, but it's a bringing together of our technology and capability in a way that it's really exciting. So I think for freelancing, there's tons of threats with AI, and there's a lot of I would say platform risk, and lots of themes that I'm sure are going to come up on future episodes of this podcast. But I always like to go back to whoever the individual listener is. If you've got a passion for this stuff, go for it. And whether that pathway is a success pathway for you, or whether it's something where it just is a valuable learning experience and then you get kind of pivoted towards something else, just go for it. And there's this opening up of opportunity I would see. Again, it is not noisy, it is saturated, but there's opportunity. I think, Alan, you're really demonstrating this where you're doing some really neat things with with Etsy and just trying different things and seeing what kind of sticks. And to me, that's the joy and the kind of the future of freelancing, where, what in the past maybe was you'd have these kind of cookie cutter, I will sell you a website, I will sell you this, I will sell you that. And maybe that kind of a funnel is not performing now.
Well, that's in my opinion, that's saturated, right? Like it's been done for 20 years. It's been done for 20 years. Build a website, do a logo, do a this, do a that. Now with so many workers out there, and now with the technology being more available to the more people, and the education on YouTube being so available and all that, just everything just getting better and better and better, right? Like you said. It's I think I'm going to add to your answer is the future is it's diversifying your reach, right? Some people would say you should specialize in one thing, but my opinion is you should expand your reach. My friend says to me, you've got a lot of fingers in different pies. Well, the more pies you have your fingers in, or the more pies,
that's for a season.
It's something's gonna grab, something's gonna reach. So yeah, like you said, I'm doing a few different things, and then it's the more reach you have, it's the more potential clients you can reach, the more jobs you can get, the more skills, social proof. It all builds, but at the same time, let's bring up the B word. You don't want to do too much at the same time because you will lead to the big B burnout. So you got to juggle and find that balance of doing lots of things, but also looking after yourself, taking time off. All the good things. Yeah, 100. Yeah, I agree, 100%. For you specifically, Adon, is there any specific tools or software or platforms that you find particularly helpful in managing your freelance work? Oh, is it?
Good question. I've really gone back and forth on this. Yeah, great interviewer you are. The challenge I've found is the effort it takes to get set up with a system is, there's a big fixed upfront cost. And I think best example I have of this is my accounting. And at one point I was going to go for it. I got GNU Cash, or at first I bought one of these accounting packages. I spent like hundreds of dollars. I just never did it. And then I thought, I'll just get one of these more basic payment ones. And I just never set it up. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to get this kind of GNU Cash and do all my, really kind of do it right. And that just, I put the time in and I realized I'm not needing to do this. So all my business records are in Excel, for instance. But there's things that I really take seriously. So one is document storage. So I have a very well thought through method of so it's not just in a Google Drive, for instance. So I've got a really kind of well thought through solution for secure document storage and then to be able to access those documents. So that's really critical. Related to that is backups. So I've got multiple redundant backups, not just of my data, but of my all of the important data on my servers. I've got bash scripts that are just doing everything behind the scenes. So there's things that are priorities for me that I have spent significant time battle testing, stress testing, getting to work the way I need it. But there's a lot of examples where I download a project management software or something like that, and I just never really get it to work for me. And ultimately what I fall back to is paper and pen. And I've got, grab my bag to show you, but I've got, I invest in this really beautiful leather folio kind of notebook that I can put inserts and I've got sticky notes in there. I just have sort of this analog system. I've got another drawer that's sort of a locked drawer where I've got official records that are like in case of emergency, my wife could open that and get that kind of stuff. So a lot of how I think about systems are really in terms of which problems do I need to solve? And then if it's a case of, I just like to tinker, I just kind of, not so much perfectionist, but I just like to one example is my dev environment. Like over the last 3 years, I made a full transition where I'm now fully in Linux. I'm fully in Vim. Like I
Wow.
Vim. I'm using Meter Vim. So I have one computer that has Windows for when I need it, but
Yeah.
my entire dev environment now is fully in Linux, including, and this is probably going back 4 years now, but I taught myself Git and all those kind of proper protocols around managing the software. So I am very strategic and also I'm reflective where, I'll watch, one example would be from 5 years ago, but, I'd watch some tech YouTuber, back then, and then they would talk about something and I'd be like, oh, I need to learn about that. And then, I go through this kind of process where I'm always amassing this kind of, level of knowledge that I can be a consultant to myself to really establish what systems do I need. And it's really important, I feel, to not have over designed systems, because it's not just that for me. It's just not something I like.
Right. Okay. Two more questions, and we've done the first episode. So let's. This one's an interesting one. How do you handle your financial and legal aspects of your freelancing, such as invoicing, taxes, and contracts? Like, you hire an accountant, because I've done that before with a different type of freelancing. There's a lot of online services these days that do online accounting now. Or maybe you do it all yourself. What's the go with you?
It's a mix. Initially, I did do it all myself. I tried to find an accountant and I couldn't, and it just didn't. I wasn't willing to spend a ton of money. I didn't really know what was needed, and I didn't think I needed, a certified accountant. So initially, it was with my father's help. Actually, we did a bunch of research together and just did it best we could. I had all my record keeping, and we just took our time to kind of get a way to submit those taxes that first year. And then from there, I established proper systems. So that has worked okay. But then I was always kind of questioning. I was always nervous. Like I wouldn't buy assets. Like for the first several years of my business, I had already owned a laptop, so I just used that. And there are things that I probably could have charged the business that I did not charge.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I did home expenses at first. So at some point, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 years ago now, through networking, I was able to get in touch with a tax lawyer or tax accountant, sorry. And he was specialized in small business account. The referral was he specialized in small business. I think he did other stuff too. But because I had all my records in good order, I was able to come up with an arrangement with him where the amount he charges me is just a little more than you probably pay like an H&R Block or one of these, retail tax providers, service providers.
Yeah.
So the tax is something that I was always so nervous about. But I was also practical. So I just kind of did what I thought was right. I just, I have a high level of integrity. So I just file things in a way I felt was honest. But once I was able to, I did kind of backfill that with a proper, tax accountant, but I'm not paying him on a monthly basis where he's actually doing the accounting. I'm doing all of that. And I just go to him at the end of the year and say, here's my profit, here's my expenses, here's my assets, and it all in a format that if I had to take that and then fill out the tax software, I could make mistakes and it'd take me a while, but he can take that with his 30 years, 40 years of business knowledge and do my taxes correctly and charge me a very reasonable fee. So that's something I've seen value in, but I haven't really spent money on what other types of things would be, but I've been very cautious, or not cautious, but I've been careful not to take on too many external expenses.
Yeah. Right. Okay. It sounds like you've got everything handled pretty well. Then, like you said, it's a mix, and it's actually probably in my opinion probably the best, because you're getting professional advice, professional opinions from someone like an accountant, but also looking after it yourself and seeing someone else look at it. And it's like you said, the mix is actually really good, because like, in a way, if you do it all yourself, you could make mistakes, but if you if you do everything with the accountant, it can get very expensive unless you can afford that. That's another side of it. Someone who's really well off could actually pay an accountant full time for them doing, monthly, quarterly statements, things like that. But yeah, the mix sounds really good for your spot. Yeah, that's good. Okay, final question of the day. We're doing good for time. Really good for time. Actually, it's only hour 15. We're all right. We're good for time. And we'll wrap this up. Last one for the day. What are some misconceptions people might have about freelancing in the tech industry, but you can say freelancing in general even, and how would you address them? Misconceptions people might have. Like, I'll give you one. Well, I'll give you one. Like, you never get a day off. But that's a misconception, which is sort of true, but it's not. But that's my one. Anyway, what's your misconception about freelancing, and how would you address it? Go ahead.
I have an answer. I'm just not sure I'm going to articulate it succinctly, but basically something about that the sort of the mock-up, or the this process of kind of presenting the idea to the client is just extra sort of gravy on top of the process. Like, to me, getting the requirements and getting clear sign off from the client on the scope of what you're actually preparing is so critical. But for the clients, they don't, or I've had many where they just don't understand, and they'll just say, "Oh yeah, that looks great," and then come back and say, "Oh, but I like that change, or I like that thing," and it's like, "Hey, but that was fine when there was a mock-up, but now this is like, I've written 50 hours of code here,
Yeah,
and it's like I already baked you the carrot cake."
it's the meme. It's the freelancing meme. It's the freelancing meme. That, like, you do this like 20 hours, 30 hours of work, or no, maybe not that much. Maybe like 10 hours of design, or 15 hours of coding, and you show something really nice to the client, and they're like, "Wow, that looks great. Can you change everything?" And you're like, "No, no." Yeah, 100%. 100%. That is a misconception. To address it, like, how would you address
that part? I do have answers for that. So I address it by being very clear about the process, and I'll put it even in my billing, the invoicing. I'll have different stages, and there's sort of sign off for the different stages that I've had,
Right.
where the release of the, I'll invoice for 25% up front, and then, another 25 or 50% on sign off of the mock-ups for develop, and to actually integrate that as a step in the life cycle of the project.
That's good,
Still
actually.
working on time.
It doesn't always work, the sign-offs and the milestones and all that, but because you might get stuck at a milestone and then you can't get paid and then they want you to change it. But you're right, because if you break up, that's actually a good strategy, actually, to break up the project into steps, paid steps, actually, 10% or 25%, like you said, 25% to start. Some people do 50%, like I've done 50% before. 25% to start, 25% for, concepts or, initial design, initial progress. And if they sign off that, they pay for it. And then you go to the next step. Yeah, that's good. Good. I like that. Wow. It's hour 20. We've done it. Well done. Look at this. Yes. Look at that. We have an applause. We do. Oh, wait. I got to turn it on. No, that's not an applause. Anyway, all right. I don't have the buttons ready. Anyway. Well, thank you so much, Adon. We've done a first episode of the joy of freelancing. How was your experience? How was all that? How do you feel?
Oh, this is a riot. Yeah, I appreciate your presence through this time, and this is a lot of fun.
This was great. Thank you so much. Well, if anyone wants to find you, hire you, connect with you, where can we find you? Where can we hire your services? Where can we connect with you socially?
So LinkedIn, you'll reach me. My name's in the title of the podcast. So just type my name, Adon Irani, into LinkedIn. I'm probably the only Adon Irani on there. I'm on Twitter with @risk media. So that'll also be in the description somewhere.
Yep.
And you can go to atriskmedia.com, atriskmedia.com, and love to hear from anyone.
That's great. If anyone's out there anyone listening or potential clients or anyone, Adon's available for work and got his socials there. It's great. My name is Alan. I am on Twitter as well. Askatona, ASKATONA. You can my website askatona.com. Yeah, we've actually got we've got a newsletter starting up. We're going to tie it up with the podcast. It's called the Joy of Freelancing newsletter. It's on Substack. You can get it at my website. You can sign up now. We're about to post our first post. We're actually gonna probably get some little bits and pieces from what Adon said today. Some interesting advice, very good advice that Adon's given us today, and we'll put some stuff in the newsletter, some tips and tricks as well, and links to the podcast. And if you're watching on live stream, it'll be available on the YouTube channel, Askatona YouTube, and it'll be on Spotify later this week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time.